I mean, here, in terms of the COVID situation, it's saying it's not really getting worse, and so it's stabilized. So we are still in a mode of lockdown, although the surrounding towns and cities are slowly relaxing. That means fully relaxed in Indian term. Oh yeah, okay. So we will start. Mm-hmm.
Geshe, usual.
Mm-hmm.
Mute everyone.
Oh yeah. We will start the gathering, saying the refuge and bodhicitta lines. While we are saying those 4 lines, try to hold the mind taking refuge in 3 jewels and the mind of enlightenment or bodhicitta as our main motivation, intention to participate this gathering, listening, contemplating, and also, if there are things that we can put into practice, no matter how small that can be. And it is also part of training our minds, train as a follower of the teachings of the Buddha, and then it is very, very helpful and useful. Train ourselves, train our mind to hold the mind taking refuge as frequent as possible, as from a depth from our heart as possible, and saying, not just following the teachings of the Buddha. Many of us follow, the Mahayana teachings, Vajrapani teachings, and for that, then the holding the bodhicitta is something very important part of the following the practicing the Mahayana teachings, Vajrapani teachings, and it is also this beginning of the class saying the refuge lines is also part of that training, to make our current this mind, though it is not very very negative, but nevertheless the self-centered, the egoistic mind is all the time there in many different forms and in many different ways, very ready to pop up, and what's called lead us to do something, which contradicts with the teachings, Mahayana teachings, bodhisattva and teachings. So it is very helpful and useful to train our current mind into the altruistic awakened mind, bodhicitta, to initially to reduce the self-centered, the egoistic mind, and then eventually by enhancing the altruistic awakened mind, then completely eradicate, completely get rid of the self-centered egoistic mind. And so for two purposes. The first is to have the right intention, right motivation to join the class. And the second purpose is really while we are to train our mind to hold these two very, very constructive, helpful, and useful minds. So that is my brief explanation to remind all of us, not just you, also to myself, to remind how important it is to have these two minds. So now we will say the refuge and bodhicitta lines. Sanje che da so je chona ma la changjo panto dane ja so che da ge chen so ye be chona ma je dola penje sanje tu bara sho sanje che da so je chona Chanju Panto Dani Jaso Che Dagi Jinso Yebe Chonama Yi Drola Penje Sanje Dubara Shu Sanje Cheta Chonji Chonama Chanju Panto Dani Dagi Jinso Jibe Chonama Yi Drola Penje Sanje Dubara Shu. Oh, yeah. Now we will say a few times together Charisic mantra, the 6-syllable Avalokitashvara mantra. And while we are saying the mantra, chanting the mantra, hold, people who are able to hold the visualization of Avalokitashvara, either above our head or in front of us. If we hold the visualization of Avalokitashvara above our head, then we are facing the same direction. But if you are going to hold the visualization in front of you, then Charisic is facing towards you. Any form, forearm Charisic, thousand-arm Charisic, or other form of Charisic that you are familiar with. And while we are saying the mantra, from the Charisic and from our heart, in a nature, in an aspect of multicolored lights, in the nature of the Charisics, great compassion and wisdom, to reach towards all living creatures, living beings, and particularly those living beings who are going through a very obvious, very growth difficulties, physical difficulties, mental difficulties, and so forth. Due to reaching that light, in the aspect of light, nature of love, compassion, and wisdom, strongly imagine, that the difficulties are eased and minimized and eventually fully, completely eradicated. And while we are saying that, in imagining that, also, hold strong sense of compassion towards all living creatures. So we'll say a few times together, cherishing mantra. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Om Mani Om Mani Om Mani Om Mani So our reading this beautiful prayer for birth in Sukhavati, realm of bliss. And we are reading the section, the main body of the text, that second part of the text. That is, in case if we, due to our, not very successful in the, the training, unable to be born in Sukhavati, joyful in a Sukhavati after this life, then what is our strategy, and our strategy is the coming the many how long no matter how long it takes coming lives to continue the path, the spiritual path that we have started either in this life, or some of you may have started in the previous life, and this life still we are continuing. And that is the section that we are reading. And I think that is really something important for us to remember. In Tibetan, I think it is also seems very universal expression. In Tibetan, there is expression. It is saying, that Rewa Sangsaneja, Tati Duksaneche. That means, the hope for the best, prepare for the worst. And that is really, in Tibetan, that's what it's saying. Hope for the best. In here, in this prayer, Geshe Tashi, the first part of the main body of the text, saying, soon after this life, and then, due to our this lives, all the virtue gathering and practice and that, due to those, wholesome causes, soon after, our consciousness departing from this body, have the visions of those bodhisattvas, and those bodhisattvas, show us the path to be born in Sukhavati. And as soon as we are born in Sukhavati, and then have those, receiving teachings from those the bodhisattvas and so on and so forth, and being able to do all those amazing, the bodhisattvas activities wherever they are needed. And that is the first part, and that is what, this Tibetan expression, hope for the best. And the second part of that, that we are reading now is prepare for the worst. So that's what we are doing here. In case that didn't happen, then our strategy, our plan, our the direction is continue the spiritual path that we have started, and that is something very important. Because as we all know, power of our mind is something. If we constantly think in this way, I will prepare to, as the prayer said, prepare for that. But if that didn't happen, but my the journey continues, and that we need to all the time need to think and remind ourselves. And so the in this part, as I mentioned, several times in the last reading, there is a sections of acknowledging this kind of precious human life is something helpful, useful. So when this life ends, then in the next life also to have this kind of the fortunate life that provides to continue the spiritual journey. And then the talking about how to how to start the spiritual journey, in the sense training ourselves in the Lamrim terminology in a small scope, to really to reduce, to minimize attachment, grasping to some of these lives, meaningless affairs, meaningless things and events, and then moving to the the middling scope, to really to train, to focus on what you call the living ethical life. The sort of through that able to see the what are the advantages being free from afflictions, delusions, and what are the disadvantages all the time caught up, remain in this kind of with these attachment, aversion, and ignorance, these afflictions, and then cultivating determination to be free from the circle of birth, aging, sickness, and death due to the the afflictions and negative karma. So that is we saw that part. Then also last time we started, then moving to the the great scope. In other words, training in the bodhisattva in the path. The training in the bodhisattva in the path, and that we saw in the the last readings, such as the that what you call the paragraph starting once born, not that one. Sorry. Reading one. Having all those the skills, means, and methods to serve living beings, such as understanding living beings' mental dispositions, having that kind of ability, and and also we have started to look at that those what you call the four the wisdoms, 4 different types of wisdoms. The wisdom that and not that much rely on others' support, to have that kind of ability, and which is called great wisdom, or the great wisdom. And then Sherab Sawa, wisdom, which a clear wisdom, the clear in the sense able to see, able to understand all the details, all the precise, such as, for example, looking at the law of cause and effect, or understanding, living beings, mental dispositions, and the backgrounds, and their needs, all those details, that kind of wisdom. So we have covered those. Now today we are starting from 3rd wisdom, that is Sut wisdom. And the Nyurwa, Sherab Nyurwa. Okay, so first I will read, I may have read this in Tibetan, but just in case, I'll read that part in Tibetan. Shenya Gyawa Tamjedo Langdor Gilanam Rangdok Genu, Sherab Lapchawa Toba Juji. Kune Nimon Pada Nabar Jami, Chashi Tajin Tawan, Chitawa Shindo, Madebar Chenu, Sherab Sawa Toba Juji. Mado Pada, Lower Topa, Kazum Gisamba, Yamatado, Maluba, Gognube, Sherab Murwa Toba Juji. Shengi Tsesum Munube, Sungrabji, Tsidunla, Tubamebe, Jube, Sherab, Saba Toba Juji. Dorna Chave, Sherabji, Gyan Tamjatan, Sherabji, Sungrabji, Tsidun Jebala, Tapkebe, Sherabji, Gone, Chanju Sembe, Joba Tamji, Tarsuma, Jizun Jabayam, Double Juji. Teda Sherab Chawa, Selva, Nura, Saba, Delato, Nene, Galdenjasu, Sembata, Loma Tsar Jubata, Keba Goa, Jebe, Yangla Jebe, Sungrab Tadala, Sungrab Tadala, Mikbe, Chebata, Zubata, Zombala, Kebe, Parodo Chima Toba, Juji. So that is just reading that wisdom part. So this Sut wisdom, as it's stated in the translation, may I develop the Sut wisdom that holds the power to counter as soon as they appear in doubts, fallacious views, and incomprehensions. In other words, Matopa tang lopar topa. Matopa is that those important things, such as the nature of suffering, such as nature of impermanence, subtle nature of impermanence, such as the nature of dependent originations, nature of emptiness, nature of minds, that we haven't fully understood. Matopa, that is Matopa. Haven't realized yet. Matopa. Lopar Topa in Tibetan. Lopar Topa, many of the things we misunderstand. Lopar Topa is misunderstanding. For example, many of us have a belief, many of the samsaric things, things and events, though they are nature of samsara, though they directly or indirectly, here or sometime in the future, they will bring pain and difficulties, but we don't, we see they are desirable, we see they are attractive, and we work to have them. So that's a lopar topa, having wrong misunderstanding. Matopa, lopar topa, tezom samba, and many of us have doubt of law, cause and effects. Many of the subtle nature of law, cause and effect. We don't see, they connections. We don't understand their connections. We may understand the gross levels, but we don't understand some of the subtleties, because sometimes the questions quite often are asked, saying, "Oh, I can't remember I have done anything wrong, but I'm having these difficulties." And say, "Oh, he or she is a very, very nice, very kind, very good, but why he or she is having lots of troubles?" That might be true at this stage. That might be true in our view. But I'm not saying it's completely individual's fault, but there are these kind of low cosmic connections. So that is the doubt. Tezom in Tibetan, tezom, doubt. Yeah, here I think it might be the incumbent. I don't know. Tezom ji samba. Kematadu maluba kogneba. As soon as these mental states, doubt, wrong view, misunderstanding, as soon as they occur, able to hold, able to understand, wrong view is occurring, misunderstanding is occurring, able to catch as soon as mistakes are made. And that is what here sut, the wisdom, sut, wisdom, sharam nyurwa, and also not only the some to work for the sake of others. Sometimes we don't see our mistakes after a long time ago. Oh, that is a mistake I made. That is because we don't have that kind of quick, sut, wisdom, unable to see that. So when we start to do something good, something helpful, something useful, for the sake of others, to work for others, of course, being human beings, we make mistakes, but many of us are unable to catch that mistakes immediately. It takes a long time, and that's what this the third wisdom, Sherab Nyurwa. And the next one, here translated, deep wisdom. Deep wisdom. May I develop the deep wisdom that penetrates, unopposed, that meanings of the scripture unfurthable to others. So, when we read some of those profound teachings, and sometimes when we read once, twice, 3 times, and listen from those, read some commentaries, and listen from those great teachers, still we struggle to understand the depth, the depth of the teachings, depth of the teachings. For example, in Heart Sutra, there is this phrase saying, form is empty, emptiness is form, form is not other than emptiness, emptiness is not other than form. That 4 statements. Not that easy to understand. No matter how often that we read the commentaries by those great teachers, no matter how often that we listen from those great teachers, but still struggles to catch the meaning, depth of those statements, depth of those statements. And it not only in the emptiness, but also in the many other topics. For example, when we look at bodhisattva, some of the bodhisattva's deeds. When you read the Guide to the Bodhisattva Way of Life, when Shantideva explains some of the benefits of the body having bodhicitta, we are unable to really understand the full, what you call the content of those statements. And that's what here in Tibetan is called Sharap Sabha, profound wisdom, or here translated deep wisdom, deep or profound. Profound in the sense, deep in the sense that wisdom, which has the ability to go to the depth of, to get the, some of those very, difficult topics, difficult subjects. So these are the four wisdoms, four wisdoms. What you call the great wisdom, and the clear wisdom, swift wisdom, and deep wisdom. I'm sure many of you have worked with the other people, and some of you may work as a teacher. When you work with them, then we are able to, figure out different in sort of what you call the mental capacities. I remember this very clearly when I was here as a student, having debating with the many other, the other colleagues, and this is very, very obvious. Some of my colleagues have a very, not very unable to get that surface one in a detail and so forth, but have the ability to understand quite depth. Some people, have a very quick, easy to catch what, but difficult to go into depth. And that is here. And here, this is. And why these are useful? These are useful for oneself, for one's own spiritual journey, and these are also useful for the working for the sake of others. So these are the four wisdoms. Then the next, then making some kind of conclusion, just this, relation with regard to these wisdoms. In short, with the wisdom stripped of all the diluted insight, may I rise to the wisdom skillful in unlocking the meanings of scripture in order to travel as the noble Manjushri has done, to the perfection of every bodhisattva practice. Donachari, Sherab Gyön Tamjedane, Sherab Chalwa, here translated saying, I think it might be this, all dilute, Donachari, Sherab Gyön Tamjedane, Sherab Chalwa. This is used very often in the monastery, in the scripture, Sherab Chalwa. Sherab is the wisdom. Chalwa, that there's some kind of wisdom is there, but unable to use that wisdom properly or at the right point. Just going all the directions. Sherab Chalwa, in the ordinary colloquial language in Tibetan, when milk, the milk, what's called goes wrong, that is Chalwa, So that is so. There is this kind of wisdom, but that wisdom is not very much focused on the right direction, not very much, So that is Donna Chave, Sharabdi, Tamjetan Talve. In other words, saying, in short, to be free from all that kind of mistakes, that Tamjetan Talve, Sharabdi, Sungrabdi, Tsigdun Chevala. And here focus on have the wisdom to learn, to understand, to the meaning of the scriptures. Sik is the words of the scriptures. Dun is the meaning. So the sharab the Sik so the bodhisattva, among the bodhisattva Manjushri, has that kind of what's called embodiment of that wisdom, bodhisattva Manjushri. So here saying, may I become like the bodhisattva Manjushri, who has that kind of quality, have the quality of all those, four wisdoms that we have seen earlier, and free from all the, the faults of the wisdoms, and have the ability. Scripture in order to travel. I don't know why, and they use travel. Here the travel in the sense, to really to continue to learn, to listen, to contemplate, to meditate some of those important teachings, and to continue to do that, and to have those wisdoms. I think that's. Then another paragraph, having gained without difficulty, great, clear, swift, and deep wisdom, may I, in order to gather the fortunate, so this is the after having that kind of wisdom which has all those four qualities, great, swift, and clear, swift, and profound. Then when you are able to lead living beings, Geshe Tashi, Galden Geshe Tashi. Here it says, in order to gather the fortunate, in the sense, when you engage in helping, supporting others who need to need explanation, need what's called the commentaries, and you are able to do that. But also people who are holding misunderstandings, who are holding wrong views, and may able to clarify their wrong views, dispel their misunderstandings. Lama Tsongkhapa, this is a beautiful word in Tibetan. I think here, in English it put it saying, to please the wise. Kepa wise in the sense those, the bodhisattvas, those people who really, cares, to do this kind of activities. So when you do to having that kind of wisdom, then you have the ability to do that, then that will please those great, beings, wise beings. So this is the three important activities as while we are in the training, to people who need your your explanation, and you are able to explain people who need some kind of reading, able to write, able to write you are able to write the the explanations. And Zoba, people who need some kind of dialogue, debate here, translated. I think the dialogue might be the right one. Have the ability to have good dialogue with others. There are some of those people who have been leading group discussions or leading, chairing some meetings. Some people are very, very skillful, able to, hold important points, what speaker have said, and then summarize like that. So so in the Buddhist, the one way of saying as a not just intellectually, but saying as a scholar in the Buddhist term, somebody who is able to do these three in the Dhamma, being able to explain in a clear, precise, unlike me not repeating again and again, very, and the people who are listening, able to listen, very able. So Cheba, Zomba, when they write, write on the point, and very clearly and very unmistakably. And when they have a dialogue, when they have a debate, not have a proper debate, not what you call offend others, but have the main points and to clear the mistakes. So that is what here is related to the wisdom. So then the next is, now I'm going to read a little bit in Tibetan. Shen Gyawa Tamje to Rangi Tezo Simbe Ila Chepatam. Chanju Simbe Joba Labo Chela Gilukin. Shumbe Samba Tamje Gang Shenji Tun Hulenjin. Ningok Chugi Parodu Sambala Tabgebe Chanju Simji Gone. Chanju Simbe Joba Tamje Tarsamba Jizun Jenrese Wangchu Double Gurji. So this is the, and now in the next page, and this is cultivation of bodhicitta. And here it says, furthermore, I'm reading on page 93 in the book. Furthermore, in every life, and having put an end to a way of thinking primarily concerned with self, to all laziness and weakness regarding the powerful practices of the bodhisattvas. May I possess the body? So this, this paragraph is very much focusing on the, cultivation of bodhicitta. In other words, self-centered mind. Just thinking one's own sort of well-being, one's own, the needs or the affairs. In other words, self-centered mind. Chanju sembe joba laboche la gilupa. And that is Chanju sembe joba laboche. That means those, bodhisattvas' great deeds. Here mentioned, to all laziness and weakness regarding to the powerful practices of the bodhisattvas. So, in other words, once we decided to enhance bodhicitta, and particularly to take bodhisattva vows, then we have promised to practice in the bodhisattva's deeds. So when we start to do the bodhisattva's deeds and face the challenges, and here in Tibetan word gilupa, it is a type of laziness. If you read Shantideva's Guide to the Bodhisattva's Way of Life, in the 8th chapter, which I'm doing with my friends from Switzerland, the 8th chapter, which is diligence or joyous effort. And, when Shantideva explained, 3 types of laziness is explained, which is common explanation in the Buddhist literature. And this Gilupa, it is a type of laziness in the sense, laziness in the sense, when you do once, when you do twice, 3 times, 4 times, when you don't see that much results, then we slowly give up. That happens very often, particularly in those big projects. When I have a big project, important long-term big projects, then the progress is usually very slow. And because of progress is very slow, and you need to put lots of effort, then this mental states will occur. Slowly giving up, not, and that is in Tibetan, lupa. Lupa literally it means collapse or fall down. Lupa, if I say the Kangba lupa, Kangba is the house Kangba. Lupa, it means collapse, collapsing the house. So here, Gi is the muscles that we have in our lower part of our leg, that one muscles in there. When that muscles, due to certain reason, not working well, then we cannot stand up. That is what here, literally it means that muscles collapse, collapsing that muscles. When collapsing that, muscles, then we can't walk. And that is what here, exactly what it's saying. So, we sort of giving up the bodhisattva's deeds that we decided to engage in, traditionally those 6 perfections, because it is hard, it is difficult, so that is what here, Gilupe. And then also Shumba. Shumba is here translated weakness. Shumba, yeah, it is weakness. It is this kind of sense of, what these days you quite often use the term of, that term low self-esteem. Low self-esteem. That sense of, oh, I can't do this. I'm too poor. I'm, such and such. So seek some kind of reasons that we are unable to do that. So that is here, the Shumbe, Samba Tamche Gang. So really, those kind of type of mental states which really, obstructs or cause, cause problem to continue those bodhisattva deeds. Shumbe Samba Tamche Gang, stopping, eliminating, shenji turn to lenging. So the, very, it says supreme in courage in here in English, supreme in courage. In Tibetan, Hlu Lemba, supreme in courage. Hlu Lemba, it has that kind of very, the energetically, in Tibetan, Hlu Lemba has a meaning of there's tremendous energy to continue the bodhisattva's deeds. Some people may continue, but there isn't that much energy in that action. And here, Hlu Lemba, the same energy. So here, supreme courage, translated. I possessed a body mind wise in the accomplishment, of the supreme courage and willingness to dedicate. And that is a very nice word. Willingness to dedicate. Willingness is something important. If we have sort of willpower to do, then we don't feel that much, even though task itself might be very difficult, very challenging. But if we, from our heart, if we have that kind of, will, wanting to do, then, we won't feel that kind of very difficult. Our mind plays big role to see to whether it's difficult or not. As one of my common, the example from the Western culture is having those very risky hobby, very risky and very challenging, very difficult hobbies. Because although all the point of the fingers are completely damaged, holding on the rock, hardly there's anything to be held, but still try to hold and to get to that up in the wherever they want to reach. So there's this willingness, therefore don't feel. And this, which another example is in Tibetan is this, the Tibetan expression, kendo mendoa, kurdu mendoa, kendo doa, kendo doa. So the Tibetan, those aristocratic ladies having lots of jewelries, under the name of jewelries, most of them are stones, therefore very heavy. And under the name of precious metal, gold, silver, but they are very heavy. But they put all those things, ears are almost pulling down for 2-3, centimeters, but still don't feel the pain. So like that, it says, kurdu mendoa, kendo doa, not to see, not to feel as a burden to carry those heavy stones, instead to see as an ornament, and that is what here. So our mind plays big role, and this is what here, willingness to dedicate myself to others. And may I travel as the bodhisattva Avalokitashvara has done. So that is here, the previous one is the wisdom, and here is the bodhicitta, so, the embodiment of great compassion is bodhisattva, bodhisattva Avalokitashvara. So saying, may I, become like the bodhisattva Avalokitashvara has done to the, consummation of every bodhisattva practice. Okay. Then one more. Shen Gyawa Tamje to Rangda Shen Yu Tana Jubana, Dudang, Muditang, Pegi Goa Tamje, Jombar Chevala, Tapkebe, Nubekone, Chanju Sembe, Juba Tamje, Tarsumba, Jizun Samwe Dako Tabu Yuchi. So this is, the another important, the elements to work for the sake of others. And that is, have the mental strength, have the mental strength. And this is mental strength here, it says, furthermore, in every life, whenever I apply myself to the welfare of self and others, may I possesses a skillful ability to demolish the holders of Mara, defeat those of extreme views, So this is here Mara. Rangda Shenji Tanga Chupana, Dudang, Mudikdang. So Mara, although they're culturally, and socially and linguistically, there are these belief something outside there as a Mara, as some kind of demon. It seems almost every single culture have that sort of, the belief, and it is not different in ancient Indian and in Tibetan. So, but the main Mara, the main demon is those attachment, aversion, ignorance, anger, jealousy. Those are the main Maras. Those are the main demons. That is something important for us to remember. Those external beings, if there are external beings, cause us pain and difficulties, those are, as His Holiness Dalai Lama says very often, those are the object of our great compassion, not as something to be destroyed. Those are we should express, we should extend our compassion, not look as something terrible, something to be destroyed, not in that way. And that's what here, Mudi. So when we, this happens very often, even in the, for example, when we do some initiations, giving initiations, or do some ritual, practice. Quite often there is at the beginning, there is a offering, dharma, to be given to those external obstacles, requesting them not to cause trouble to our spiritual activities. I'm not saying there aren't. I don't know. I haven't met yet. I don't know if I see that, I don't know how I'm going to react. I don't know. But anyway, so that sort of things. There might be beings who have that kind of nature, but those beings are not object of our anger, jealousy, or fear. These are the object of to express our compassion. That's what. And so, so when we engage in the bodhisattva's deeds to benefit ourselves, to benefit to others, and when the obstacles occur in many different forms, in many different ways, and this is what here listed, Mara, the extreme wrong views, and so on and so forth. When those obstacles occur, we have the ability to dispel in the sense, not to by these obstacles, not to stop our activities to benefit ourselves and to benefit to others, to be continued. And in that case, saying, may I become like the Vajrapani has done to consummation of every bodhisattva's deeds, bodhisattva practice. So Vajrapani is one of those 8 bodhisattvas when you counted the bodhisattvas, or Vajrapani as a deity, as a deity who have a quite fierceful face, holding a vajra, on his right hand, and holding a lasso on his left hand. But these are the symbolic, symbolic in the sense, to really to pacify the obstacles most of the obstacles to do when we continue those virtues, wholesome. Most of the obstacles are due to our self-centered mind. Maybe a little bit from the people who have a little bit unfortunate natures, beings who have a little bit unfortunate natures, but those are not really the main obstacles. The main obstacle is our self-centered mind, our egoistic mind. As I think I may have told you one of the story, when I was here as a young naughty monk, I went to see cinema in the local cinema theater, with my bicycle and with this Indian road those days. And nowadays roads are really good, and there's no torch or anything like that. So one time I was with two of us or three of us coming down after late night going to watch cinema and coming back. And so, those days there were lots of bamboos along the, there's a small water stream along that water stream. Now that water stream is gone, bamboos are gone, environment is really completely changed around, surrounding is changed. So because we are coming down, three of us, a little bit slow, and at the river water stream, there are lots of bamboos. And I thought, the elephants from the long distance, and it has a little bit what you call the wind. So bamboos are moving like this. So I thought, there's a herd elephant, which is quite common. Even these days, not in Sera, in Honshu, elephant comes very often. So we all run, drop our bicycle. We all run inside the what's called the cornfield, in a cornfield. So we waited hours and hours. Same time we are very worried our teacher may find out we are not there, and also worry about elephant will catch us, but nothing is happening. Then we slowly move towards, eventually we find out that's bamboos, those are not elephants. So while we do that, that is fear of this egoistic mind losing this life. So like that, isn't it? So obstacles, this one is to dispel the obstacles to work for one's own well-being, long-term well-beings, and well-beings of others, to dispel those obstacles, able to dispel, have that kind of ability, like the bodhisattvas of Vajrapani. That is this one. And so far what we have, wisdom to work for bodhisattva, training in the bodhisattva, bodhicitta, then the ability to dispel the obstacles. So three deities, the Manjushri, wisdom, and Avalokitashvara, compassion or bodhicitta, and the Vajrapani, the energy to dispel the obstacles. So now I'll read one. Kyewa tamche to lelo pangbe, zunru ki changju ki joba yonso zoba cheba la, tangbo tu jeba ni geji kya yawa meba labo che, zunru ki kone, changju chenpo nyeba nyame shakye jabo tabur gyurche. Nyame shakye jabo tabur gyurche. So this is, to have the what you call the diligence or the joyous effort or diligence to continue the spiritual path, the bodhisattva path that we have started, and to be like have that kind of diligence that the historical Buddha had, the historical Buddha had that kind of diligence, and he continued. So this is what here, it says, to perfect the bodhisattva practice that dispels all the laziness. May I, in every line, first create the body mind, and by powerful endeavor, undistracted for even an instant, may I reach great enlightenment as the unparalleled Shakyamuni has done. So this is in a very beautiful line. Quite often the historical Buddha Gautama was attributed. Like, for example, there is a sutra. There's a sutra, saying the historical Buddha Gautama, when he was in the training before attaining enlightenment, like us, living beings, sentient beings, and that triggered him to cultivate bodhicitta, to enhance, to because that is said when he was in an unfortunate rebirth, when he was one time in an unfortunate rebirth, and Buddha was pulling a very heavy load with another animal, and the another animal was really struggling to pull that load. So these two, one is the Buddha and one is the other animal. So these two are pulling a very heavy load. And Buddha saw that his partner is really truly struggling to pull that heavy load. And seeing that really triggered him to have a deep, strong compassion. And that continued to cultivate bodhicitta. And that's what it says. Togla mingne ningje. Togla mingne. Tog is the companion, that the other animal who is pulling the heavy load, and seeing the struggling that, pulling that, and then that triggered to cultivate, cultivate bodhicitta. And also, the historical Buddha, among the 1,000 Buddha within one fortunate eon, in terms of the time frame, one fortunate eon, and there will be, there will be 1,000 Buddha, enlightened beings, and the historical Buddha Gautama Shakyamuni is the fourth one, and the fifth one will be the Maitreya among the 1,000. So when the historical Buddha Gautama was in the training, Buddha made this particular promise, saying, may I be able to work at the time, all the what you call at the time when the living beings and what you call the sentient beings, the mental states are very unfortunate, very the what you call the attachment, aversion, ignorance are very strong. May I able to work at that time, so that sort of thing. So here, that's what here, that's again here, diligence to dispel the laziness and have the diligence to really to continue and to complete, the bodhisattva's deeds. In order to complete the bodhisattva's deeds. 당보 tukye the first moment, the historical Buddha, the historical Buddha, when he was in the training, the first moment when the bodhicitta is cultivated, then until he attained enlightenment, hasn't lost any sort of interest to work for the sake of others. And may I be like the historical Buddha Gautama. Here, what it's saying is, endeavored undistracted for even as instant. Even in a instant, even in a short moment, some kind of the distraction, not doing sake of work for the sake of others. And that's what here, this one, in other words, here is very much focused on, like that kind of determination, to work for the sake of others, like to become like the historical Buddha Gautama. Okay, so we will leave it here today. Today's our reading, we'll leave it here. So far today we have those wisdom, and with that, praying or praying to become like Manjushri, then bodhicitta or compassion, praying, working like Avalokitashvara, then have the energy, strength to dispel the obstacles, become like the Vajrapani, then have diligence and dedication, that mental strength, determination to work for the sake of others, to continue the spiritual journey, like the Buddha Shakyamuni. So that is we have done today. So yeah. So I will see you next Sunday, and next Sunday will be the last Sunday reading this text, and then in July I would like to read this one short, the what you call the prayer called Gandil Hajama, 100 Deity in Joyful Land. It is like a short, the Guru Puja associate with the Lama Tsongkhapa. So because so far we read, this text, Tsongkhapa's this text, and I thought it's sometimes quite good to have a short, not any detail, but a short Guru Puja. It is all the seven limb prayers practices are there, which I thought that is quite important for us to learn that, and I will do that in July. Then we'll have a good summer holiday. Okay, yeah, thank you. So we will say the prayers to 21 paras. Om Je Pama Doma La Cha Ze Cha Ze Doma Nyu Ma Pa Mo Jene Geje Lo Dan Ta Jide Sungwe Chuje Che Je Kesa Je Wa Le Ne Jo Cha Ze Dongge Da Wa Gun Do Kan Wa Jene Sigbe Shem Pama Dong Da Tsopa Nama Je Rabdo Chewe Ra Param Chanze Seng Chone Je Peme Chane Nabara Jem Jemba Zundu Kato She Wa Soba Samden Ju Nim Chanze Tejin Shebe To Tae Nabara Jawa Jum Malu Paro Jimba Tobe Jawe Seji Shindu Dem Chanze Do Da Rang Yik Döda choda namka kam, jikden dombo shaki nende, döba meba guba nyum, chanze gyajin mela tsamba, nongla naso wanju chum, chungbo rolan jisa namanda, nyujun soje dune dum, chanze deje chadan peje, paro chogo rabdo chum, yegun yunjan shaki nende, meba choba shindo bara, chanze dure jikwa chen, duje pao nambara choma, chuje shene chonye den, dao tamje ma lu sema, chanze kunjo somze chan, seme toka nambara jema, ma lu choje kolo jem, rangje weje sonama choma, chanze rabdo gawa jem, ujin weje tenwa bema, sheba rabshe tudarai, dudang jikden wando zema, chanze sashi jongwe chon, tamje guba nima nyema, chonye yewa yige hong, pongpa tamje nambara zho, chanze dawe dombo wo, yenpa tamje shindo parama, rebe chone waba me, dabara shindo wero tsema, chanze kebe tama ne, barwe chengwe wene ne, yejang yung mukune koro, daye pune nambara choma, chanze sashi ngola chan, tilgi nujin shakye toma, chonye jenze yige hong, rinpa dobo namne gema, chanze dema gema she, nyangen deshin ju nyema, sowa omda yangda den, diba chenpo jomba nyema, chanze kune kora waka, chaye lune nambara gema, yige chube ngane ge, rinpa hongle joma nyema, chanze turi shamni da, hongge nambe saben nyema, rera menta ratan be, jikde sumna yewa nyema, chanze lai choyi nan, reda tajin chana nam, tara niju peje ye, duna malu pane sema, chanze lai chonam jebo, hadam miyam je dem, kune goja kawa je, zedam mulama ngenpa sema, chanze nima dawa jebe, jinye pola ero sema, hara niju dudarai, shindo tabu rimne sema, chanze tinye sumnam gebe, shive dudayanda dema, dudan rola niju son, chomba dure rabcho nyema, zawe ngaje deba deda, chanze wane nishu za je. Kewa di jiwo kun, sanama yishe zozo shin, sanama yishe le jungwe, tamba kunye tobara, chanjo senjo rinpo che, ma je panama je juro che, jeba nyamba meba, kong ne kong tu bewa, kang re rawe kowe shingama de, penda dewa ma lu jome ne, jen re sewa tenzen jaso ye, shabe si de pado ten yoro che. Oh, yeah. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank you so much, Geshe.
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Geshe. Thank you, Dushina.
Thank you, Geshe.
Thank you.